Hello and welcome back to Mayster Reviews. Today I'm going to be talking about The Railway Children Return, my movie review of that film. I had a pretty good time with it, I have to tell you. It wasn't absolutely astounding, but I can go over some highlights and things like that, and things that might make it worth your time when it comes out on iTunes to possibly pick it up. So, the film centres around a bunch of kids in World War II era, evacuees sent to the countryside, and I have to honestly say the opening scene, I was not expecting to be as powerful as it was. Spoilers, by the way, where they have to say goodbye to the kids, and it worked incredibly well, especially when there was one mother that just couldn't do it and pulled them back off the train. It was it wasn't just some run-in-the-mill evacuation scene, which we have seen quite a few times. That provided some honesty to it, that there was people who just could not do it, and it seemed very visceral and real when that was happening. And it was a really good interpretation of war from a child's perspective. Not as good as the likes of Jojo Rabbit, but it was very well done, because it painted the picture that realistically, even though these children are clouded in this bubble of innocence, even their world way out yonder, where the crawdads sing, where it's over the hills, where it must be safe, there still is danger about, and there's this looming presence. Now, there was a sub theme in here of racism, which I think was handled incredibly well. Something I never knew about before, sort of racism in American soldiers who were around the countryside when this was happening, so providing support when America joined the war. That contextual element was established very well. It just didn't understand to me how, spoilers by the way, again I've said, how when at the end, when apparently the coward and traitor who signed up too young, when he was released by the commanding officer, I don't know what his official title is, if there's so much racism in the force, and he was released and set free by his commanding officer, who was a black man, it made me very confused. If there was such much racism in the military, how on earth did a black man become the commanding officer? It was very confusing to me. I feel in that instance the writers might have wrote themselves into a corner in saying, right, okay, well, if the commanding officer was a white man, logically, based on the things we've established, there is absolutely no way that he would let them go. So we have to write in that it's a black man. They kind of wrote themselves into a bit of a corner, and there was no logistical way out of it that wasn't kind of sloppy. I can forgive writing themselves into a corner until they get out of it, and I don't think they got out of it pretty well. On top of that, there is a throwaway line in a little sequence that refers to the suffragettes, which is the wrong war, by the way. It was very much around World War I period, not World War II. Clearly is a shoehorned, forced way with the writers to kind of push a certain agenda. And it was incredibly forced. It was just such a political scene, and there was no need for it whatsoever. It had literally zero relevance. I am all for powerful female characters, but it's when it's something such as that is just so forced. It was literally at the expense of like some of honestly them almost like verbally backing an old man into a corner and basically questioning him on his privilege for about 30 seconds. It was incredibly and utterly forced, and that I can't forgive. It's a wartime film from the perspective of children, which is sort of the adult angle to it that adults can enjoy, but it's also got with that bubble of innocence. It can also be a kid's film. It's a family film, realistically, set in a wartime setting, and yet this is just being forced into the script. There's no need for it, no relevance. I was a bit iffy on the racism thing, so what they were going for with it, but then it all made sense by the end, aside from that, like, a logical little writing themselves into a corner in the third act. This, though, that was just completely and utterly forced. There was no need, and And as much as I'm all for that stuff, I don't like it when these things are just cause you can, are just forced into the script with no relevance. I don't. It all the little threads in a story need to somehow sort together, and one little throwaway conversation about a completely different sub theme. It's there is no way you can thread that into the story. It is purely just the writers trying to talk to us, and that should only be done for the message of the film, not dialogue. The only way a film should speak to the audience is for the message, not directly for dialogue. I know I went on a tangent there for quite a long time, but that genuinely frustrated me, most of all because it is a family film. It's not some sort of strong 18 plus agenda based project. It was full on. It was just a family film that was supposed to be innocent, and that somehow still made it in. So yeah, there was a couple of glaring issues I clearly had with it, but overall it was a fun time and one of the soft little highlights of the month. So yeah, well, July anyway. So that's my review of The Real World Children Return, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.